Hi, I'm Dr. Nidhi Khare. In today's lecture on creativity, I'm going to discuss the steps involved in the process of creativity, and I'm also going to talk about how we promote creativity in organizations. And lastly, I will discuss the issues and the factors involved in developing creative work environments. So students, although it isn't always obvious to us how people come up with creative ideas, scientists have developed a model that outlines the various stages of the creative process. Specifically, this model, which is summarized in this figure, which shows three basic components which are very important in creativity and which I have already discussed in the previous lecture. So this model specifies that the process of creativity occurs in 4 stages. In the following 4 stages which are mentioned in this figure. Step 1. Prepare to be creative. Step 2. Allow ideas to incubate. Step 3. Document insight. And step 4. Verify ideas. So coming to the first step, prepare to be creative. Although we often believe that our most creative ideas come out of thin air, people are at their most creative when they have made suitable preparations. Now these preparations that are involved involve gathering the appropriate information and concentrating on the problem. Second step, allow ideas to incubate. Now because ideas take time to develop, creativity can be enhanced by putting the problem out of our conscious minds and allowing it to incubate. If you have ever been successful at coming up with a fresh approach to a problem by putting it aside and working on something else, you know what we are describing here. The phrase "sleep on it" captures this stage of the process here. That is the second step. Third, document insight. At some point during the first 2 stages, you are likely to come up with a unique idea. However, that idea may be lost if it is not documented. So, whatever you think of, whatever ideas are there, documentation of those ideas is very important. So with this in mind, many people carry small voice recorders that allow them to capture their ideas before they become lost in the maze of other ideas. Likewise, writers keep diaries, artists keep sketchpads, and songwriters keep tape recorders handy to capture ideas whenever inspiration strikes. Fourth, verify ideas. Coming up with an idea is one thing, but ensuring that it's any good is quite another. So assessing the usefulness of an idea requires consciously thinking about it and verifying it, such as by seeing what others have to say about it. In other words, you want to see if those ideas or that came to you in a moment of inspiration in the middle of the night still are any good in the morning light. So verifying the ideas is very important. Knowing about the creative process is particularly useful insofar as it can be applied to promoting individual and team productivity. We will now turn to the process of doing so. So how do we actually implement it? So how do we promote creativity in organizations? Highly creative people are an asset to any organization. But what exactly do organizations do to promote creativity within their ranks? In general terms, the answer lies in things that we can do as individuals and that organizations can do as a whole. Specifically, 2 major approaches may be identified: training people to be creative and developing creative work environments. So we'll take both these in detail in the next slides. First, training people to be creative. It is true that some people by nature are more creative than others. Such individuals are inclined to approach various situations in new ways and tend not to be bogged down by previous ways of doing things. However, there are skills that anyone can develop to become more creative, and firms have sprung up that assist organizations in doing things to promote creative employees. Generally, training people to become more creative involves 3 steps. Encourage openness to new ideas, take the time to understand the problem, and promote divergent thinking. So coming to the first one, encourage openness to new ideas. Many good things go undeveloped because they are not in keeping with the current ways of doing things. Becoming more creative requires allowing oneself to be open to new ideas, or as it is often described, thinking outside the box. Some companies do this by sending their employees on thinking expeditions, that is, trips specifically designed to put people in challenging situations in an effort to help them think differently and to become more creative. According to the CEO of a company that specializes in running such expeditions for clients, these trips push people out of their stupid zone. Stupid zone is a place of mental and physical normalcy so that they can start to think differently. Adding, it is an accelerated unlearning experience. For an example of how this has been accomplished at one large company, I'll tell you how does this make Betty Crocker more efficient. To develop creative new ideas about how to improve efficiency in their Betty Crocker factories, General Mills officials went to an unlikely place, the pit of a NASCAR auto racetrack, NASCAR auto racetrack, where they carefully studied how pit crews changed tires on race cars in the midst of a race. What they learned led them to creative new ways of making the changes necessary to swap factory configurations from one product to another, ultimately reducing the process from 4.5 hours to only 12 minutes. Clearly, General Mills' openness to new ideas led to some creative new ways of solving a problem. So I hope with this example of Betty Crocker factories, you got an idea how companies encourage openness to new ideas. Now the second one, take the time to understand the problem. Meaningful ideas rarely come to those who don't fully understand the problem at hand. Only when time is taken to examine the many different facets of the issue can people be equipped to develop creative solutions. Now again consider, for example, Bright House, the 17-employee Atlanta-based company that specializes in developing new ideas for its clients. Its clients among them have been Coca-Cola, Home Depot, and Georgia Pacific. For a fee of $5 lakhs, the entire staff devotes a full 10 weeks to the issues their clients have in mind. For example, how to improve billboard advertising at Turner Field, the home of baseball's Atlanta Braves. So this example must have given you an idea how to take time out to understand the problem. Third, promote divergent thinking. As I have explained earlier also in the previous lecture, divergent thinking involves taking new approaches to old problems. Teaching people various tactics for divergent thinking allows problems to incubate, setting the stage for creative new ideas to develop. One popular way of developing divergent thinking is known as morphology. A morphological analysis of a problem involves identifying its basic elements and combining them in systematically different ways. Now, coming to developing creative work environments. How do we develop work environments which are conducive for creativity? Thus, so far we have identified ways of making people more creative as individuals. In conjunction with these approaches, it is also useful for organizations to take concrete steps to change work environments in ways that bring out people's creativity. Several such approaches may be identified. Provide autonomy, provide exposure to other creative people, allow ideas to cross-pollinate, make jobs intrinsically interesting, set your own creative goals, support creativity at high organizational levels, enjoy and have fun, and promote diversity. Coming to the first one, provide autonomy. It has been established that people are specially creative when they are given the freedom to control their own behavior. That is, when they have autonomy and are empowered to make decisions. For example, at the Japanese video game manufacturer Nintendo, creativity is so important that no one considers it odd when designers leave work to go see a movie or a play. So, providing autonomy to the creative people is very important. Provide exposure to other creative people. It is widely assumed that workers are likely to be creative when they are surrounded by other creative individuals. After all, being around creative people inspires one to be creative oneself. Moreover, one can learn creativity relevant skills from creative individuals. Now, although this is true under some circumstances, research suggests that the picture is not so simple. Specifically, the effect of having creative co-workers on a person's own creativity depends on the extent to which that individual is closely monitored by his or her supervisor. Next, allow ideas to cross-pollinate. People who work on just one project run the risk of getting stale, whereas those who work on several are likely to come into contact with different people and have a chance of applying to one project an idea they picked up on another project. This is done all the time at the design firm IDEO. For example, in coming up with an idea about how to make a more comfortable handle for a scooter, designers might use ideas they developed while working on a project involving the design of a more comfortable computer mouse. Because of the upheaval that is bound to result when companies are downsizing, ideas are unlikely to cross-pollinate. It is therefore not surprising that creativity tends to be considerably lower at such times. Next, make jobs intrinsically interesting. Research has shown that people are inclined to be creative when they are intrinsically interested in the work they do. After all, nobody will want to invest the effort it takes to be creative at a task that is uninteresting. With this in mind, creativity can be promoted by enhancing the degree to which tasks are intrinsically interesting to people. The essence of the idea is to turn work into play by making it interesting. Next, set your own creative goals. Being free to do as you wish does not necessarily imply goofing off. In fact, the freedom to make your own decisions pays off most handsomely when people set their own creative goals. For example, the famous inventor Thomas A. Edison set the goal of having a minor invention every 10 days and a major invention every 6 months. This kept Edison focused on being creative, and with over 1,000 patents in his name, he clearly did an outstanding job of meeting his goals. I'm not talking about strict external pressure to be creative, which rarely results in anything positive. However, creativity is aided when people strive to meet their own difficult goals for achieving creativity. Support creativity at high organizational levels. Nobody in an organization is going to go out of his or her way to be creative if it is not welcomed by the bosses. Supervisors, team leaders, and top executives must encourage employees to take risks if they are to have any chance of being creative. At the same time, this involves accepting any failures that result. This idea is embraced by Livio de Simone, the retired CEO of 3M, one of the most innovative companies in the world. Failure is not fatal, he says, adding, innovations are simply chance breakthroughs, and when you take a chance, there is always the possibility of a failure. So it is always important to take a chance. Have fun. For people to be motivated to be creative, it helps to have an incentive. And one of the most potent incentives is fun, so you should enjoy. Indeed, people strive to be creative when they can have fun along the way. It is with this in mind that many companies encourage creative thinking by providing employees with opportunities to have fun on the job. This is especially so at today's high-tech jobs, where creativity is essential and where long hours at the office are typical. Lastly, promote diversity. When companies are staffed by people from diverse ethnic and cultural groups, they are bound to think differently about the situations they face. And as I noted earlier, divergent thinking is a key element of creativity. Therefore, companies with ethically diverse workforces are inclined to have cultures that allow creativity to flourish. I hope you got a fair idea of the steps involved in the process of creativity. And students, I hope you also understood how creativity is promoted in organizations and how developing creative work environments is very important. Thank you.